I'm Scott Al Miller. This is my life living in Leon, Nicaragua. We're doing another live daily, and we're going to be trying this out. Yesterday's attempt at this was a seeming success. It seemed to have been popular, both with people who were able to jump on and those of you who watch later. So we're trying it again, and we're going to mix this in for a little while to see how they are. This is a good week that I want to try this one because I'm very busy, and this does make things easier, but also because Thursday is Thanksgiving, and we're not doing a live show on Thanksgiving like we normally do on Thursdays. So for those of you who are new, if you're watching this, Thursdays is a great time normally, but not this week, to join us for a long live stream. This is just a normal daily being done in the format of a live stream, so we're checking that out. Today's topic is going to be if you need to ask, you're probably not ready. And this comes based on, and I do get these questions a lot, so this is not picking on any one person, but this question came up about half a day ago in response to an older video that I had, and Danny's Sipisek said, "Good day, I would like to move there." Awesome. We're always glad to have new people, new blood, fresh meat moving into the country. Can you advise me on what is needed to buy a house and a business? Thank you. So this is a dangerous question. Not that we don't want to answer it, and we will. And not that you shouldn't be asking questions. You should. But no matter where you're moving, as an expat, looking at moving to a new country, something that is very important is understanding, and we talk about this a lot when doing our videos, and I have, very importantly, if you're new and you haven't watched, we have a playlist all about real estate. We have a playlist all about business and investing in Nicaragua, specifically all for Nicaragua. Please go watch those. You know, none of this costs anything. It's all free. Yes, I get a couple views out of it. Thank you. Hit thumbs up if you would not mind. But that's all we're getting, right? We're not selling anything. There's no service to buy. There's no, oh, actually, I'm an agent. Please use my service. None of that, right? I'm not here doing investing for anybody. It's just please watch the videos, because what we don't want, nobody wins when we have someone come in and buy a house and end up not wanting to live there, or getting scammed and not actually getting a house, or investing in a business that just goes under. I mean, maybe a few dollars are made here and there, but it makes for unhappy expats who probably end up leaving, and it makes for a very tiny benefit to the local economy. It's something, hopefully, like you put some money in to try. I put $5,000 in to start a little business. It failed. Well, that $5,000 probably worked its way into the economy. Okay, that's nice. It didn't hurt, but we don't want you to give up and leave when you might have come in, put in $5,000 into something different later, had time to get to know it, and be successful, and then over time generate money for the economy on an ongoing basis. That's really what we want, right? We want you to be happy and successful, you, the expats who are considering moving. And Nicaragua wants this to be an ongoing success story. They want happy expats telling other expats how wonderful it is. They want their economy engine to move forward, not just get $5,000, right? That doesn't really do that much. It's not bad, right? You came for a vacation, you spent $5,000, but there's better ways to spend it than a business that fails, right? That's not how we want you. If you're going to do that, we just want you to come and eat a whole lot, or do something you enjoy and be like, this was a great vacation. I lost $5,000 because I just kept buying things. Wonderful, right? We're not trying to not separate you from your money. By all means, come and spend it in Nicaragua. Just do it in a way that's going to make you happy, right? So the question is, and I am going to answer for the people in the live stream, because this is a little bit different. This is our daily, but also live. So I am going to come and answer the question that Leon L. Escobar asked about citizenship. We will come back. I am treating this as a live, but we also have a topic. So it's a little bit different than our normal lives that you would get on Thursdays, except this week. And hello to everyone who is hopping on. So the issue that we have is, and this is universal, right? It has nothing to do with Nicaragua, nothing to do with the specific tasks or anything like that. What is happening is there's this kind of universal excitement when you're moving to a new country, right? Especially when you've selected one. You've been watching my videos; they look fantastic, thank you. And you say, I'm really confident this is where I want to move. Now, hopefully you've come down and experienced it yourself and are then having that feeling, right? You certainly don't want to move based solely on my videos. I do think they give you a lot of information, but not enough for you to truly know you want to move. Maybe enough for you to make a really good, solid short list of places to investigate. That's That's our goal as a channel, is to give you the tools you need to make good decisions and enough information that you aren't like, no, Nicaragua, why would I go there? I don't know anything about it. I'm not going to bother researching. No. Watch the channel and go, ooh, great. This is interesting. This has potential. Then you need to come down and actually check it out yourself. And hopefully you go, I totally connect with what Scott was saying. This is my vibe. Or I watched Scott's stuff. Sounds like a nice country. Doesn't sound like it's for me, but I'm going to come check it out just in case. And you come down and you go, yep, I was right, but good information that led me to good decision making, and I got a nice little vacation out of it. One way or another, we want you to be successful. And we know that the majority of people, maybe not the majority of my channel, but the majority of people who are investigating becoming expats are certainly not going to move to Nicaragua. We just aren't the main draw. We've got some incredible features, low cost of living, tropical beaches, lots of live music, very safe. Wow, these are a whole bunch of things. So with that, there's a lot of reasons why you would want to come here. But at the core, the vibe, as we call it, that ineffable feeling of this is the place where I want to be, or this is the place I don't want to be, is not something that we can answer from a channel, right? And no matter how good I got at it, I would never be able to answer that. So I'm not like my channel sucks because I can't tell you this. No, a channel can't. I can show you stuff. I can talk about stuff. I can answer questions. And that should be enough to give you a lot of tools that you might otherwise be missing. But you still have to experience it yourself. So hopefully, in asking this question, I would like to move there. Can you advise me on what is needed to buy a house and a business? We're past the point of, I've checked it out. I like the vibe. Now I'm interested. But the dangerous thing that expats experience almost universally, this has nothing to do with the person who's asking, and it has nothing to do with Nicaragua, and it has nothing to do with, we'll just guess that they're coming from the US or Canada. None of these are factors that play into it. It is that you are moving from one country to another voluntarily. You're not a refugee or something like that. You're not under political pressure to move to a new place. You're doing it because you want to. You're interested in a new place, a place with incredible people, as Lucifer pointed out on the live stream, and in discovering that, right, that process makes us, whether it's because we have a lot of things going on in our lives, and that tends to make us feel nervous, or it's the excitement of the new life stage, or any number of things, right? We all start to feel, when moving to a new country, one, ungrounded. We have a lot of like, woo, I'm just not sure where my base is anymore, because your country, your society, your culture are big anchors that make humans comfortable, and you're giving those up or shifting those when you move to a new country. And for many of us, moving to a country like Nicaragua is all of those being heavily disrupted. I definitely gave up a house that I owned to move to a place where I didn't. I definitely went from a culture of, what are you doing on Friday night? Cracking a beer and sitting in front of the TV, right? Games on, whatever, right? Like, hey, maybe my buddies are coming over. Like, legitimately, my Friday night when I lived in Texas was calling Brian, who just posted on the live stream, and being like, hey, we're having beers. What are we going to do, right? We're going to sit around the house and have beers. Maybe go to our local pub, right? Now, we're from the U.S., so it was a bar, but we went to our local bar and had beers, right? Or we could shake it up and have whiskey. We might sit at a new table. Right, those are the kinds of changes we had, and the number of times we would go out, not that many, right? We were more likely to go to one of the other's houses and have beers there, and maybe, if we're being fancy, fire up the barbecue, right? That's an American culture of going out that I'm, from in North Texas, and moving here, right? What's our going out going to be? Well, going out is we're gonna grab food at a live music venue. We're gonna go see a different band later on as we're having beer, and we're going to go to a club and go dancing. Oh, how often do you do that? Is that like once a month? That sounds fun. Oh, no, 4 times this week. What? Like that's what? Yes, but that's how it is, right? Just in the last 4 days, I've been out till 4 a.m. clubbing one night, right? This is not something that theoretically happens sometimes, and it's not something that doesn't affect you as an expat, right? This is all this new lifestyle. And so whether it's you're just so excited and you're dreaming about your new future, as we all do. You move to a new country, when you're not a refugee, when you're in that position of choosing a new country. We're moving to Nicaragua and we're saying, I'm visioning, right? I'm visioning this brand new house, this big yard, and all these things I'm going to do someday. And then we become very anxious to have that dream fulfilled. And that's a wonderful thing. And this is how humans work. But the danger, especially when you combine this excitement of a new place with this nervousness of giving up this anchor that we've had, cultural, societal, familiarity, friends and family nearby, our country, right? Like all these things are absolutely huge to disrupt and completely change who we are as people. And our natural reaction to that, quite often, incredibly often, is to try to find new anchors. And the number one way to find a new anchor in the psyche is to buy a house. Well, if I own it, it's mine. I can settle in. It's my fortress, right? If I'm just going to stay in a hotel or rent an apartment, we have a certain amount of, well, it's not mine. Yeah, I control it. I paid for it. I'm not fearful. But I don't have this release of energy that you have when you own a house. And I get it. We all have this, right? I don't own this house. I rent this one. And there's always a certain amount of, yes, but it's not really mine. I know I've had it for years. I will have it for years. But there's always a certain amount of, I'm not in my space. I totally get that. And so, that is a feeling that I have. And it affects, I think, nearly everyone. I am not unique in this. And everyone I talk to has similar feelings, strong ones. And so we're trying to get to the bottom of that. But when you have that, your natural reaction is, okay, well, I'm going to start looking for a house right away, probably before I move. And my wife did the same thing, right? Made me buy our first property before we moved. We had even lived in Nicaragua previously. We had lived all over the world. We had done a bunch of things, but she wasn't willing to give up our anchor in the United States and Texas until we had an anchor somewhere else, which of course is financially reckless, very, very foolish as a general thing. There's just a million things that are wrong. And we got really lucky. And we had the advantage of years of research and lots of resources on the ground. Did we do smart things? No. Did we get lucky? Yes. Would we do the exact same things again? No. Right? But that's why I'm here, to try to protect you from the mistakes I went through and give you a generally success story, right? We love where we live. We got in the right country, but use my errors, my process where it worked, and my mistakes where it didn't, to learn from what works and potentially repeat that, and to avoid what doesn't work and learn from those mistakes. And with that, the top thing is this desire to create an anchor that is expensive and one-directional is outrageously dangerous. And we should all step back and go, this is an emotional response. It is horrendously dangerous. But also understand, everybody does it. Everyone has the same feeling. Some people have enough money to go buy a house, and some people don't. And so that protects a lot of people, right? Well, I can't buy a house. Okay, good. Hold on to that. But if you come and buy a house in a new country, any new country, right? I've decided to move to Libya, and Tripoli has some nice apartments. I've decided I'm going to buy a house in this nice neighborhood. I don't know how many nice neighborhoods of Tripoli there are. I assume there are some nice ones. Never been, not on my current travel plans, but I'm totally willing to go. And you're checking out Tripoli, and you're like, do you know how much waterfront there is in Tripoli? Like, a lot. I bet I can get a beach house, and I bet you can. I bet you can get a beautiful place with views of the ocean, of Mediterranean. And if I'm moving to Libya, I'm going to be like, I really don't know my way around. So having a house is going to give me this anchor. It's going to make me feel like this is my place. It's going to give me a community to fit into. And all that's true. Except you're going to pick a place. You don't know if you like the local restaurant. You don't know if you like the neighbors. You don't know if the house you're buying is a style you like once you experience the weather and lifestyle there. Because all these things will change. You don't know if you need a big place or a small place. You don't know if you need a a place closer to a supermarket. Oh, everyone who lives in this neighborhood's super rich. You're not super rich. You're just kind of rich. They all have staff who go out and do their grocery shopping for them, and it's actually an hour away. You like to go grocery shopping. You thought that would be part of your regular routine. Now you're taking a bus to another part of the city so you can go get your groceries and do this relaxing thing of grocery shopping that you do. I like grocery shopping, but I don't like having to take a taxi there, right? So it's all about balance. When I lived in Kiev, Ukraine, we could walk to a super fancy grocery store. We loved doing that. We would take the kids, we would go walking, and we would just explore the food because we weren't from Ukraine. So every meal was something exciting. You learn what people got because it was cheap, learn what they got when it was prepared, learn what they got when it was frozen. Like, it just, everything was this exploration of not just the culture, but also what the culture had to offer, so that we would learn, oh, you know what? This place makes this potato salad. I've never had anything like it. It's so amazing. I want it every day. You have to go experiment to find those things, right? So if you're moving to Libya, all of us would have this, I'm unanchored. I don't know where to be. We'd all have this desire, wow, the beach sounds great, maybe it is. This house looks beautiful, maybe it is. And then there's the risks, of course, of, well, maybe that neighborhood is not where you thought it was. Maybe that house isn't the real one you bought. There's all kinds of like physical risks. But then even assuming everything was true, you may get there and be like, oh, I just paid 10 times what this house is actually worth. You didn't realize the cost of living in Libya. Maybe you got there and realized this neighborhood isn't what you like. Maybe you just don't enjoy the area, or more likely, you found another area right around the corner that you would have run into right away and you didn't realize was available, or that you could afford it, and you could have just moved there and you didn't. And now you've got this house. And then you probably have this mentality, well, yeah, but it's a house. That's always a good investment, which is almost never true, right? Ask the US right now, collapsing market in the Sun Belt. So suddenly people are trapped with their houses. There's too many of them. Ask Nicaraguans, right? We're on at least a 5 to 6 year, at least 6 years, 7 years of real estate market collapse. You can't unload houses. We say for a house of any value, right, above say 100,000, the turnover rate is about once every 20 years is how long you have to go to be able to unload a house typically. Right? And you can unload it, but 20 years, most people will be like, oh, that doesn't work for me. I was thinking less than 20 months, and that would be rough. 3 months, sure. And maybe you found a place where it will be able to turn over. But you're taking a gamble that that's true at best, and it probably isn't. Most places don't move houses that quickly. But here in Nicaragua, which is what we're talking about specifically, the average is 20 years for a more expensive house. I know an awful lot of people who live in prime areas, have beautiful property, and have been actively trying to sell since so long before I was here that all the signs had faded and fallen off and been forgotten, and any process they had ever put into trying to sell was long forgotten, and it only became brought to my attention that they were looking to sell because I was having beers with them, and they're like, oh, by the way, if you want to buy my place, I've been trying to sell it. Oh, you've been trying to sell it for how long? And some crazy amount of time. And then you dig in. Well, how many people are calling? How many people are coming to look at it? Well, no one for the last 4 years. You're like, wow. Right? The time frames that people are thinking, those of us who are used to the market, we're used to, yeah, no, that house went on the market, a couple decades ago. Trees have taken it. Like you're talking to neighbors trying to come up with a history. So, and you're asking questions, and this is real. Like I have worked on a property that I'm trying to buy. And we're like, so are you telling me that there's a foundation somewhere in those trees? Oh yeah, there's a foundation. There was a house. Oh, what was the condition of the house when you tried to sell it? Oh, it was a house with a yard. And you're like, but that's a jungle. I'm like, yeah. And you're like, the entire history of that jungle has happened during the time you were trying to sell that house. That was a functional house with a yard. Maybe not a great house, right? But it was a functional house with a yard. You didn't keep cuidadors there to cut the grass. The jungle took it, and there's no longer a roof, no walls, no anything. They hope there's a foundation, but they would have to fight to get to it. And I mean really fight to get to it. And so you have this extreme culture of not being able to sell. Now, this one's more extreme. I'm sure Libya, not quite so bad, right? I'm sure most places probably not this extreme, but that's a risk. So when you're talking about, I'm going to buy a house, and you have ideas like, oh, I'm going to get a starter house. No, you're going to get a finishing house. That's almost guaranteed. Well, I'll sell it and move if I decide it's the wrong place. You'll probably move, but not sell it, right? So your purchase is probably not permanent, but more like permanent than not. You can't make transient purchases generally anywhere, and you never want to bank on that. So even in places you know really well, places where the market would be much more conducive to simply buying a house and then reselling it. Could be the US, could be France, could be Germany, could be South Africa, could be Thailand. You know, these places would be far easier to potentially turn over a house that you purchased. But still, in any of them, if you were to say it, you know, to an American, someone's moving to the United States, they're like, I've been watching Scott's video, the US seems like the place for me. Like, okay, yeah, he talked about, you know, the beautiful wine country in the New York Finger Lakes. I definitely want to move there. I heard about this town, Ithaca, that's like the main city of the Finger Lakes. That sounds fantastic. Culture that I want. Houses are beautiful. I'm going to buy there. Yeah. From my videos and my history, you might totally make that assumption that that's going to be a good place for you. Or you want a more blue-collar world, you may be like, yes, Pittsburgh is this surprisingly amazing hidden gem in the Northeast. And it is. Right? And so you decide to move to one of these. But imagine telling your friends, I've decided to move to Ithaca, New York. All right, have you visited? No, but I looked at maps. All right? Are you aware there's some surprises like the winter is brutal? Do you know there's a lot of hills? If you try to drive a normal car on those hills, you're just going to slide into town, right? Are you ready for that? This beautiful wine lifestyle, you know it only lasts for 4 to 5 months of the year, right? The rest of the year, you're just waiting for those 4 and 5 months to come back, right? Do you know how expensive the food is? Yeah, the housing's only so bad, but the food is going to get you, right? But the restaurants are fantastic, but they're not cheap. Like, have you evaluated these factors? And the city's not real big. Here's your grocery store. You don't have a backup. Are these things okay for you? And they might be, and it's a wonderful place to live. And if I had to live in the Northeast again, I'd be right back to Ithaca, like, no question. But you'd be like, you're crazy, you need to go visit it. And then if you had visited it, and you're coming from another country, and you're like, okay, I visited it, I'm not going to rent. I'm going to start looking into buying a house. You're like, what? No, you're going to get the wrong neighborhood. You're not going to know the values here. And that's in a market where you've got MLSs and comps on houses. You have all these tools to protect you in this giant market. And it would still be right about crazy. Even renting an apartment from a distance. I once did this in Dallas, and I just took a 6-month rental. And I just sent someone over to look at it. He's like, yeah, it looks okay. I'm like, all right, I'm taking it. That was considered pretty crazy. Not super crazy, but a little bit crazy. To take a 6-month rental sight unseen. But to buy a house and tie up all this money and all of this time in your life, sight unseen? Wow. And without doing deep research, these are, for normal people, massive investments. And that's in a country where you can generally resell it, right? I'm from New York. If I bought a house and needed to resell it, chances are I could resell it within a year, maybe 2 months, right? But a year, probably pushing it. That said, I did get stuck with a house for 10 years because I couldn't sell it. So it's not always true in New York, right? In New York City. So it can happen, but I got an extreme case. Normally, you assume you'd be able to sell it. You do have to take some risks, of course. But coming into Nicaragua, you don't have those assumptions. It's so much worse, and you wouldn't do it in reverse. So asking what is needed to buy a house, right? So here's the reasons why that doesn't make sense. All the reasons we said, it's too early. If you have this information, I understand. For Danny, or Radek, as he is, you have this. Well, I want to be prepared. I want to think about it. Absolutely. But the questions you need to ask really are, is it a good housing market? Like, is it a place where it's safe to buy a house? Yes, it is. Property laws and stuff work pretty good. And you're pretty safe being a homeowner. Okay, good. I'm an expat. So as an expat moving to Nicaragua, will I have the option of buying a house, or am I stuck renting? Oh, no, you can absolutely buy a house. Okay, those are questions you would want for future planning, because you may not want to live in a place where you can eventually buy a house. That's reasonable, right? So not, moving to a country when you could have ruled it out, smart. Absolutely. But beyond that, what are the requirements for buying a house? I mean, nothing, right? Just do it. But it doesn't matter, because you're going to, if you're being sensible and safe, you're going to move here and have years before, maybe 2, before you really consider buying a house. And during that time, 1, all those requirements can change. Telling you the requirements now is not going to be super useful, right? 2, you can look and say, okay, Nearly every expat you talk to who's been here for any amount of time owns a house. Not everyone, for sure, but most own houses. Okay, clearly the process works. Like, this is something you can do. And I'm getting derailed a little bit, but the asking too much too early is just going to give you information that you probably can't use, and you have to research anyway. But what you don't want to have is all those things at the ready, and then be like, okay, I got all my information. I guess I just go buy a house now. No, that's what we're trying to protect against. You don't want to. I'm not saying having information is bad, but you don't want to set yourself up to try to pull the trigger on buying a house, because for many people, this is a realistic thing you have to be aware of. Many people, when they have the ability to buy a house, cannot resist doing so. They will actually become addicted to the possibility of owning a house, and will often rush to do so without doing an evaluation. They will simply do so. And if it's like many people that I work with, they will do so quickly as you're advising them not to do. Whatever you do, don't buy a house today. And he's like, I don't want to hear the words you're saying. I'm signing on this right now, right? So many people actually do that. We know, so we've internalized that something is a terrible idea. And instead of logically stepping back and go, I know it's a bad idea, not going to do it, there's another part of our brain that goes, okay, before I can consciously acknowledge my subconscious fact that I'm about to make a bad decision, I'm going to consciously race through the process to avoid having to internalize the warning. Right? It's kind of like a person goes up and is about to touch a stove, but they're not like in motion. They're just kind of close. You can sense that they're about to touch a stove. And you go, whatever you do, don't touch the stove because it was just... And they know that you're about to say it was on. They know the thing you said was do not touch the stove. And they kind of wanted to touch the stove, and they don't want to be told not to. So they will really quickly, as you're saying it, reach out and go. And then their hands burn. And they're like, ah! Why? Why did I do that? I don't know why you did that. You clearly knew it was hot or could be hot. And you clearly knew I was warning you, whatever you do, don't touch it. Right? If you need an explanation, why shouldn't I touch it? I don't think it's hot. Is it covered in toxins? Is it radioactive? Did someone do something gross on it? Those are things you might want to ask. Right? But if I'm telling you, don't do that. Stop and think. Probably avoiding stopping and thinking is the wrong thing to do. And yet, this is how humans react a very large amount of time. So giving yourself the ability to react that way can be dangerous. Hold off on things you don't need for safety. Similarly, he asked, what is needed to buy a house and a business? So general rules of business, you never invest randomly, right? Investing is because you have identified an opportunity and determined it to be good, right? Now, you're always taking a risk or it wouldn't be business. So it's fine to be taking risks, not a problem. The issue is you don't go into a place and say, I want to own a business. That's how you fail, right? Now you're being driven by an emotional desire to own a business, not by an opportunity to make money. It's kind of like saying, I want to invest. Tell me where I can invest, right? Now, in a place like the United States, you have so many investment options. There's always a good one somewhere, always. But if you're in, a closed loop, you're in some tiny little town and you're like, I'm going to invest in this town. Tell me where there is to invest. There may not be a good investment. You're forcing a situation where you're saying there may not be a reason to invest, but I'm going to tie up my money in someone else's possession by force, right? And hope that something good comes out. And these are terrible thought processes. And really, you shouldn't be doing this with stocks or something either, but the U.S. has some mechanisms that make it viable, right? Index funds basically always work. So you can do this, and we're used to being able to do this. And when you come to a small market and you don't have these mechanisms, coming into this mentality of, I know I want a business. Why? Why do you think you want a business? I would only want a business, and I love business, right? Talk to my wife. I work. It's what I do. I build businesses. It's what I do. Since I was 22, I've been a business consultant. Since I was 16, it was my life plan to be a business consultant. I have helped run businesses since I was a teenager. This is what I do. Love it. Absolutely love it. And I know the first thing I would do is never want a business. That is not a goal. What you want is income, right? You want your money to go somewhere. You may want something to do, right? But if you only want something to do, you may want a hobby, not a business, right? There's a difference between keeping busy. Identify your goals. Well, I need to get my money working for me. Okay, great. You want to invest. Could be your own business. Absolutely. That's a fine thing to have as an option. But you don't lead with, ever, I want a business. What do I do? You lead with, I have discovered an opportunity that would be great if I had a business that did that. I want to research doing that, right? I've discovered, for example, this town has no bakery. Everyone is shipping in bread from somewhere else. I perceive a gap in the market. I perceive an opportunity where a business could thrive because, I don't know, the last baker, went out of business. It was a year ago. No one's really passionate about making bread. And so there's a gap in the market, right? Whatever reason. Gaps exist for a reason. Make sure you figure out why the gap exists. And you say, I could fill that gap. Great. And I think I could do so well at filling this gap that I may be able to expand into the next town and have 2 panaderias. Excellent. Good expansive plan, right? If you can identify that a great business opportunity exists, the risks are low, you understand the market, you've done the research, then it's possible to have a legitimate desire to own a business to take advantage of that market opportunity. That's what a business exists for. It does not exist to be a thing you own that then finds a purpose, right? Now, that said, I do advise, especially expats, often to own non-active businesses. But that's different. Those are tax shelters and ways to manipulate financial flows, giving you an external possession of bank accounts and such. It is a business as far as governments are concerned. It is a legal entity called a business, but it is not by any definition a business. But that thing could become a business if an opportunity was identified. So important to separate those things when we're talking about actual business or we're talking about a legal entity that is called a business. Lots of reasons to have one that doesn't have the other, but you should never lead with I want a business. And part of the reason is that you will then be one in a position where you're potentially going to invest where there is no opportunity, right? I came to this town and I want to have a business. Okay, but there's no gap in the market. Everything that the people here want to do and have is already filled, right? There's nothing you can do that isn't already done. Okay, well, I'm going to put that person out of business and take their business. Okay, if you took their business, are you going to be able to make enough money to justify that? And can you really do that? Are you going to outperform the business that has been here for a long time? Unlikely, right? Maybe, but that's the best case scenario, right? You're going to invest a whole bunch of money in putting them out of business only to then only be able to take their business if you're really, 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 really lucky. So it's not a smart way to go because you could easily come in and be like, I'm just going to throw money at the situation and it'll just be gone, which is always a risk with business, but it's creating that chance. So it's the wrong way to think about it, right? Businesses on their own just aren't exciting. They aren't interesting. They aren't fun. They aren't anything. They're a framework for investing and potentially for working. Right, because you can invest in a business, you can work in a business, and if you own it, often you can invest and work in a business. All of that's fine. Having a business as a framework, if those are the things you want to do, and those things make sense, then great. But you wouldn't invest where you know the investment is bad, or you don't invest randomly, right? I'm going to invest in a company that randomly buys stocks in businesses. Oh, businesses that are doing well? No. Random businesses. Could be going out of business, could be bankrupt already, could be thriving, could be overpriced, underpriced. We're just going to buy. Sight unseen, no revaluation. Well, that seems nuts. It is. It is nuts. That is the case. That's basically where you go in when you're thinking, how do I get a business? And honestly, if a business was a good idea, if anyone could identify one, it would already be open. Right? There is no requirement to buying a business in Nicaragua. Anyway, right now, if you're interested in it, you can invest today. Literally, if people on this channel were like, you know what, we're gonna do a whip round, we're gonna come up with $10,000 between us. We're gonna call Scott up, and as an experiment, we're gonna see if we can get a business up and running and invest today. If you guys want to do that, I guarantee before midnight we can have the paperwork at least ready to send to the Alcaldía in the morning or to the Departamento to file our new business, doing whatever silly thing we all decide we're going to do, right? Absolutely, I bet in a pinch, because if we had at least $10,000, it's enough money to get someone off of dinner on a Sunday night that we could put the accounting and legal and advisory resources together fast enough and get signatures on paper and stuff written up to make it by midnight. If it was a challenge, right? $10,000 by midnight, can we invest it? Yeah, I bet we could find a way. And then obviously the bank transfer time would take a couple days, but that would be it, right? So we would be done today, paperwork filed in the morning, and by Wednesday have the business funded from abroad. We could do it, but just because you can doesn't mean you should. I would love, if people want me to help them invest in Nicaragua, send me money, then I will invest for you, right? That would be cool. That sounds like a lot of fun. But that's, doing that when we don't have a business plan for it would be crazy, right? Fun? Sure. Having that kind of money to throw around is fun on its own. I love business. Just send me money and let me do business where I'm not worried about that we failed. We're just going to do our best. Hey, that sounds like very low stress to me, by all means. But if you're looking at buying a business, really, it should be because I want this business for some reason. It's going to make money. It's going to provide me a job. It's going to give me something to keep myself busy, and I'd like to try to offset the losses versus a hobby, and I don't care about the work that I do as long as it offsets it. Like, okay, define your goals, but it's so dangerous and so tempting to look into these things before it's even remotely possible. And again, humans can't stop themselves. So even people that I talk to and I'm like, look, you just tried to do a thing with a business. You were about to lose your shirt. You got every single piece of it wrong. You didn't do your market research. You had a product no one wanted. Your expenses for doing the business were completely out of whack. Nothing was right. The businesses that you're competing against are already doing a better job and not making money. You were about to do something so financially risky that it was impossible for you to have recouped that and made a profit. Can't be done. And they're like, oh my gosh, it's so good it didn't work out because I didn't think through any of that. And then the next day they're doing the same process again, exactly the same things. Why? Because we are disconnected, we are anchorless, and we become panicky. And our emotions, and nothing is the antithesis of business more than emotions. There's no emotion in business decision making. We can think of business. Business is logic, right? A home, you can argue. Passion. Oh, this house, I know it should only be $50,000, but I will pay $100,000 because I don't want anyone else to have this exact plot of grass. That's probably dumb, but there's an argument to be made. I want this at any cost. And people have made that argument to me. I will throw away $300,000 on a $400,000 purchase because I don't want to discuss it anymore and I don't want to look at any other location. Wow, you rationalizing that sounds nuts, but they were able to rationalize it. They were able to say, I'm putting $300,000 as the value on my emotions on this. Well, okay, they were able to put that into writing, and maybe they made a good evaluation. Maybe $300,000 to get that warm and fuzzy that this is the spot you wanted was worth it. Understandable. You can't say that with a business. Doesn't work that way. So that is the topic for today. I wanted to give this warning and provide Radek with this. There's no requirements, right? As a foreigner, you can do this today. You don't even have to show up in the country. And I've got playlists that go into every possible detail for both, mostly warnings, and stories and examples and all kinds of things. So worth watching because we have done all the failures here. We've made the mistakes. Please don't make the same ones. Make new mistakes, share them with us, and then we'll talk about them here on the show and try to prevent other people from making those mistakes. And new people can avoid both your mistakes and my mistakes. I can't help you avoid your mistakes, but I can help you avoid my mistakes. And that is our first goal, and we keep growing our knowledge and experience here in the market. So I'm going to do the wrap up, and then we're going to go into the live stuff, right? So don't leave, don't sign off if you're on the live stream, or even if you're not on the live stream, keep watching because we're going to do more. But that was our topic for today, so we can do a chapter marker, and you guys know that you should give it a thumbs up if you enjoy the show. Please subscribe if you are new. Welcome to the show. If you would like to help support the work that we do here, you can buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Scott Allen Miller. Because it's a live stream, I can't put it on the screen, but but it is in the episode notes. You can check it out there, and a couple coffees goes a long way to helping us pay for doing this show, which is difficult at times or expensive at times. And of course, if you have any comments, get down in the comments and say hello. If you're on the live stream, say hi on the live stream. If you have questions of your own, put those in the comments or check those episode notes. We do have a way for you to film yourself and send in a video, which is loads of fun. I love when people do that, so please consider doing that. Social media is on there as well. We are brought to you by Nicaragua's event website, nicarumba.com, nicarumba.com, which I will throw into the channel. And this is very heavily under development. This particular weekend, they're on version 2. They've been up for 2 years. This is the place for events. They are supercharging the site. New things are coming. You can like events. You can follow events. It makes a personal calendar for you. They're hoping to have Google and Facebook sign-ins within the next few days. So if you're going to sign in with those, wait a few days. But if you're just going to sign in with email, go and try to make an account today. People are starting to show up on there with accounts because the old system was anonymous, just information. Now there's accounts, so you can start doing following, and cool new features are going to be coming up. So whether you're living in Nicaragua or just visiting, it's a great way to connect with communities and see what's going on. Awesome. So they are our sponsor for the day. And let's get to that live commentary and see what's going on. I've been mostly trying to look away from this while we're doing that. Very first question, so I hope Leonel Escobar 7342 is still on, because they got here early and said, can you have a dual citizenship in Nicaragua? So right now, absolutely, there's no restrictions on dual citizenship whatsoever. The question should be, starting in 2026, so the question is, can you have dual citizenship? Under no conditions whatsoever, no ifs, ands, or buts, is the ability to have 2 citizenships or more. In question, in flux, at risk, nada. You can have dual citizenship in Nicaragua, period, full stop. You could in the past, you can today, you can in the future, period. The reason that people ask is because there is a proposal for a new law, which we can very safely assume will pass next year, that the process of pursuing a new second citizenship will not be allowed. We believe that that will be the case. And I said what the rule will be. If you say, well, does that mean? Then the answer is no. It means nothing except for what I said. Every single time someone says, oh, but I think that means, they are wrong. They are wrong because the English is wrong. They're wrong because the law does not say that. They're wrong because examples have been given by the National Assembly to ensure that no one can think it means anything except exactly the words that I said. So it can never result in someone using terms like not able to have or losing. Those words cannot be affected by the proposed but assumed to be coming new law. And not only does the new law in no way, and never has, had any possibility of having such an effect, but there are superseding laws from the Constitution that guarantee that a new law cannot do that. So you are protected by so many layers, but it is simply that the process of pursuing the acquisition of additional citizenships will not be available to Nicaraguans after 2026, sometime during the year, if the new law gets approved. And, of course, if you are not Nicaraguan and pursuing Nicaraguan citizenship, it will not be available without giving up your old one. You cannot attempt to become a multi-citizen. But many people are multi-citizens. They cannot be affected because nothing in those words affects them. People who have dual citizens are not pursuing dual citizens. That means someone doesn't understand what pursuing means. Brian says, Sunday, 2 days in a row, Tony says. Yes, I'm trying out this new live stream as a daily thing. I'm not going to do it every day for sure. But this week is such a good week to try it. We're playing with it, and it's fantastic. Anna says, I forgot your email. I know, Anna. I kept looking for it. All through the live stream, I watched for it. During the live stream, I was like, you haven't sent it. You haven't sent it. You haven't sent it. And I've been looking for it since then, haven't seen it. But send me an email right now at scott@latinamericanliving.com. and I will get back to you. Oh, Marcos is here. Hey, Marcos, good to see you. Edwin says, this topic is for housing stuff, housing and business. Yes. Janet says, I'm here, but going to a class right away. Sunday is my busy day. I had to work today, too. I needed to de-stress by doing a live stream. Brian says, house party normal here with lots of friends and drinks and food. That's Brian that I was talking about, that we would have drinks on a Friday night, go to the bar or whatever, barbecue, often barbecue at his house. That was probably my most likely house to barbecue at when living in Texas. Completely different lifestyle than here. Barbecuing at home, I can't remember the last time we did that here, but we go out for barbecue all the time, right? It's just that we always go out. You rarely come over to someone's house. Lucifer spent most of the day hosting a potential expat from our WhatsApp group. Awesome. That's very cool. Good solid 2 hours of Q&A about living here. That is how it is done. Visit, ask questions, keep eyes and mind open. Absolutely. Brian says, if you're in high school whose parents are out of town, and a kegger. Absolutely. My biggest setback is the uproot and selling everything. It is. It's exactly what we were talking about, right? The sudden giving up your anchors, losing everything that you've been building your mentality around can be very hard. And how do you reestablish that? You can, of course, but it takes time and it's hard and it's definitely nerve-wracking. I don't want to say scary. That's not the right term, but it's unsettling. And that's literally what you're doing, right? You're going from settled to unsettled in the hopes of making your way back to settled again. And we're now at that point where we're very close to being settled, about as settled as reasonably you can be. And we have begun the very, very, very long process. So don't expect a tour in the next 6 months. The insanely long process of actually building our home. We've owned the property for over 4 years, well over 4 years. We've bought many places since then, but we are finally really seriously eyeing our own home that we will own. We're starting to get ideas about it and starting to take some action. It's taken us so long to be like, okay, we understand what we want. We understand where we want to be. We understand what our life is really like. We're starting to settle in enough to be able to answer those questions for ourselves. Chan says, I've been anchorless from before I got here. Still anchorless. Some people just like it, Janet. TJ's here. Hey, TJ, how's it going? I want to, but my anxiety holds me back. That is huge. It really is. Well, and especially when you're working, right? But if you can find the right work situation, we're able to, it's start by moving without selling. Move and rent out, or move and keep your place. And yeah, that's expensive, but not terrible. And then whenever you're ready, you pull that trigger, sell the place, and then you have that nest egg. And then you can, and hopefully, maybe you do it where, if you do it right, rent out your place in Texas for Brian, and get people in so you're not bleeding out every month. Just cover some costs, and then rent here. Assuming Nicaragua is where you want to go, which of course it is, because we're here, we can go do barbecues, right? And with each other, I mean. And really, Brian, you should be looking at the community across the street from me, because Melvin's looking over there too. It'll be a party. Or on the beach, right next door. I can tell you where my house is, right? Like, you can be my neighbor. And be able to have barbecues and live the life, and you reduce all that cost. And what you generally do, now it's so cheap here, you could buy land and not build, just be like, I'm pretty sure this is the spot I want to be. I'm going to get some really cheap land, and just when the opportunity arises. And then when you're ready and you're past the anxiety and you're like, this does work, it does do what I want to do, I am happy with the situation, you can then sell the house, take that money and buy or build exactly what you want. Or wait if you want, but you'll have that and go from nest egg to nest egg, go from anchor to anchor. There's some techniques you can do to swing with less anxiety, and keeping that. I could always move back, right? That's what we did for years, probably realistically 4 years, but we did 4 years of living abroad and kept our American anchors. We kept 2 houses in America, not a smart move, that we didn't live in for all of our heavy move years. Did it make us feel more secure? Yes. Was it financially smart? Oh, stupid. But it allowed us to do it without anxiety crippling us. And so money well spent, I suppose. At the end, we're happy we did it. hindsight, I wish we could have done it without keeping those things and saved the money. Um, Tiffany does great things. I thought YouTube was glitching. Wait, alive? Hola, Scott. I hope you and the family are great. Everyone's doing well, having a little bit of a relaxing weekend here. In just a little bit, I'm going to be watching Singing in the Rain with Liesl, my eldest, the one who has been going through the rabies series. She's doing okay. Mostly it makes her tired. But we're doing cinema studies for her literature class in high school. She is a junior. And so we're having a lot of fun doing cinema studies together. So I take time off and actually watch the movies with her, and then we can talk about them and put them into perspective, which is where I think a lot of schools struggle. It's hard to sit down and really spend this time and be like, okay, so this movie was important because of, here's what was going on in America at the time. Like, you can easily read the cinema stuff. But, like, we just watched Casablanca, which I love. And being able to say, okay, so this is supposed to be 1941. So here's what they're talking about with the siege of Paris, the occupation. Here, and they're talking about Vichy France, right? Having to explain Vichy and being the capital of occupied France, and Morocco was free France, and like all these different factors, like understanding who was where and what was going on, and so this is a safe zone. And she's like, oh, I've seen this in like Dungeons and Dragons video games, the idea of a free city and that warring states have this zone where you can meet, like you're a refugee from one country and you're a soldier from another, and you're just having drinks together because you're not at war here, and it's the war is out there, but here's a different thing, but you can't go anywhere, you'll get caught, like and like just so much history and culture and understanding why the different players are who they are, I think was incredibly valuable. And so we're watching Singing in the Rain when I'm done with this, and I'm looking forward to that because I love that show. Let's see. Oh, TJ says, I put something on my Facebook about the move out of the U.S., and I got a few people from my friends list asked me for more information. Awesome. I talked to a few of them for multiple hours, and it's mostly prior military. I think tons of military really like Nicaragua. Obviously, part of it is simply, one, military have a tendency to be a little bit less worried about the things that scare a lot of just the general populace. Like, oh, I don't really know a bunch about that country. That's not a reason not to go somewhere, right? For other people, that's like, I got to know way too much. Military's like, I get deployed to some pretty hostile places and like, get over it. So I think military has like this a little bit more adventurous spirit. Even if you don't have it when you join, you have it by the time you're done. Not always, but most people. And military pensions tend to be very, very reliable, but not huge. And that makes places like Nicaragua really attractive, because what is often a potentially difficult retirement can often turn into a very comfortable retirement with a lot of assurances, a lot of guarantees. And military will either typically look for places abroad that have I don't know what it's called, Luke will know the term, but the agreements with the VA, American military, obviously, or looking for places where they have incredibly cheap healthcare and they don't care about or are not held back by the advantages of the VA. And Nicaragua falls into the later category, Panama into the former. But so these particular places have a tendency to do better than a Mexico, for example, where Mexico may get the VA actually. But if you place a place that has a cost of living like Mexico, where paying for healthcare is not nothing, it's not terrible, but it's not nothing, but they don't have a VA agreement, those tend to get ruled out. It can be very costly, especially as retired military is more likely to have health concerns than the average person. And so I think military particularly gravitate heavily towards Nicaragua and a few other places like Panama, because it just makes sense for a lot of reasons. TJ says, I referenced your YouTube and told them they needed to watch it. You have a lot of valuable information. Thank you, TJ. I appreciate that. And tell them to get on the live streams. D. Gilbert says, is it true that many expats have lost their houses to the government for no reason? The government takes it back. I can honestly say in 5 years of continuously researching every time someone has made that claim, I've yet to find a single example that anyone has been able to come up with. Not a single time. We did recently find out that Nicaraguans were referring to squatters' rights, of which Nicaragua has pretty brutal squatters' rights. Like, squatters have very little hope of getting something here, other than the fact that people tend to abandon a lot of land. That makes it more common. But squatters don't get very much rights here, not like the US, and certainly not like the UK, where they pretty much just own your place the instant they can get in the door. Nothing like that. So it's the opposite, right? People come here, D. Gilbert, because the government doesn't take your places, and squatters don't take your places. But I've done a lot of research on this, right? And I am not saying that the government has never enacted eminent domain in its history. I'm saying that in researching case after case after case after case after case after case after case, including finally getting examples where people pointed to an actual place. And then I investigated, followed up with the owner. And they're just like, no, someone made that up. Right? The owner still owns the house. They may not be there. They may not be using it. They may want to sell it. But it's just empty. Right? Now, have there been places that have been seized for not paying taxes? I believe so. And I have ones that have that sign on them, right? Seized for non-payment of taxes. But are they taken? No, they're just locked up, right? So you could call that taken. But it's also not paying your taxes, right? And it's certainly not for no reason. And even that, you know, I can think of only one example I've come across in half a decade of researching it. And the only reason I'm aware of it is because I would like to pay the taxes and get the property, and have not been able to do so. So they won't even let me do that. But it's worth knowing that I've tried to do that, right? But so that is really a story. Everyone has examples, and we did have someone from our show. So before they jump on and point out that this came up, someone from our show did jump on and said, but I don't have the location, I don't have the name, and we don't have any research. He said that their place was taken by the government, and when we dug into it, it was unclear if they had ever owned the place, and the rumor is they never had. It was a condo situation, and the owner was in dispute, right? And so they're in an area where we know there's lots of scams, and we're not saying what they said isn't true, but they're portraying it as government seizure. And when you ask them to define that government seizure, it's, well, we didn't have a deed, we're not the owners, the person who told us they were the owner has lost a dispute and turns out to not be the owner. That's not a seizure. What they're describing is a private seizure that got busted, right? It's like saying, will the government arbitrarily, or can you arbitrarily rob people, right? You have a store, you just walk in and grab a candy bar and run. Are you allowed to do that? No, you're not allowed to do that. Okay, but could it happen? Yeah, of course it can happen. What if the store caught you and took the candy bar back? Are they stealing from you? No, of course they're not stealing from you. It's their candy bar. Just because you got out the door or just because you grabbed it and ran doesn't make it yours, right? It's still theft going on. Some theft doesn't get caught. That would be a private seizure. When the government, the police, catch a thief and return the candy bar to the store, those would be some pretty bored police hunting down candy bar thieves, but you get the point. That's not a seizure. Even though, did they seize it from the thief? Well, okay, technically, yes, but it was never theirs. It was just in their possession. And so we do know that there are cases where people have privately, not the government, but people have stolen land, and the government has to step in to take it back on behalf of the owner so that the owner can actually use it. And that is what it sounds like has happened in that case. The problem is that the person who stole it may have tried to resell it and may have gotten money. And we don't know. Maybe there is something going on. But it's not necessarily disclosed. But the only so what's lacking is ever having that owner who has it taken saying, I had it taken. I have never found a third-party report where someone can point to an example of something that was taken. And I found no first-party report where someone says something of mine was taken. There's always a, well, I heard, or someone said, or, well, yeah, it happened, but no one knows where the house is, or, I think someone owns it, but now someone else owns it. Like, that's not a seizure, right? No one has an example of a seizure. And so because seizures aren't publicized, right? It feels like you can just say it. And because seizures are so common in North America, it feels like that just happens. They must do it here too. But they don't. Alberta Boy says, I'll be arriving. I'm just going to guess he's from Alberta, going out on a limb. I'll be arriving in Leon around the 10th of December. Love to buy you lunch. I love to eat lunch. That sounds fantastic. Hit me up. Marcus says, border runs. What's the fastest and easiest way to do that? Well, obviously the fastest is to hire a driver who's a little bit wink, wink, and nudge, nudge on the speed limit and carry some cash and races to the border. But yeah, private car to the border is going to be your fastest. It's what I do because I like the comfort. I only ever had to do a few. Coming from Leon, it's about 4 hours. Get up early in the morning. That's the big secret, is get up before the buses. If you have a private driver or are driving yourself, hire a driver, runs you to the border, stops for coffee along the way. You can nap in the car. It's nothing. Get to the border, walk across, walk back. You can generally do the turnaround in 1 to 1.5 hours. Get back in that car, private driver. On the way back, you're in no hurry. Stop in Hino Tepe and enjoy the best culinary experiences in the country. It's worth having a stop, get some coffee, have a nice time, and then continue on to your destination, assuming it's up north. But private drivers really is the fast. Piñas Blancas is the only reasonable border crossing you can do if you're in a hurry. If you're just off for an adventure, you've got some other choices. And of course, you can fly places, but it won't be faster. Even if you're in Managua and live by the airport, I don't think you could fly to Costa Rica, which is the nearest airport, on Sansa, the only flight that goes there. Get in, check into Costa Rica, jump onto the next plane, and get back faster than you could drive to the border, walk around, and drive back. Maybe close, but even the Managuans, I don't think, can do it any faster than the actual physical border run. It's a border flight if you do it from the airport, border run if you do it on foot. Brian says, knowing that I would have to do border runs sets the anxiety up too. You've done them. They're real. So first of all, you only have to do them rarely, right? You know, Brian, that I never had to do them because I traveled a little bit, and you like to travel. So if you were to do a cruise, so I know Brian, right? He likes to do cruises. All those cruises are going to count as your border run. So if you did one cruise a year, that's one of your 2 border runs. If you then went to visit Costa Rica for a weekend once a year, or went to Mexico, Colombia, Belize, the U.S., visit family in the U.S., anything like that, once a year, if you combine one cruise and one trip and manage to put them 6 months apart from each other, or nearly so, you don't have to do a border run, ever. So that's how trivial they are. It's really, we all do it, and they're at best slightly annoying. But in 4 years, I only had to do one. Other than that, it was all just my normal travel, reset it on a regular basis. And honestly, Brian, if you're ever coming up on a border run and you're like, I have to do a border run, just don't. Just go visit Ozzy and hang out for a week in Cochabamba and enjoy the mountains, and then fly back and be like, woo, woo, vacation. Didn't have to do a border run. Luke says, VA healthcare overseas for veterans, limited benefits, VA foreign medical program. John says, Scott, another live. Wow. It is, but I'm not going to go super long. But I do want to point out, doing this on a Sunday afternoon, we've got 30 people on right now and a good 50% more views than the one we did yesterday. So that's encouraging. I'm going to learn a lot from doing this as to when people want to get on and stuff. So it's a very much an experiment to see how this works, if people like it. But yesterday, we had nothing crazy, but a good solid turnout when we did the live stream. And we had a good solid turnout of people watching the live stream after it was over. Right, so 75%, this is only 1 day later, 75% of the people who watched yesterday's live stream have watched it since it was live. Only 1 out of 4 watched it while it was live. Now we'll see if that holds again today, because today we've got more people live, and it's still ramping up. I'd really like to go all evening. This is fantastic. But one of the reasons I'm doing these is because it speeds things up and allows me to get the show out a lot faster. And it seems popular. You guys like hopping on and being able to interact, and I like being able to interact with you. So I'm loving this. This is fun, and but I'm really busy, so I'm trying to get a lot of work done. And this, when I do a show, so let's say I did a 30-minute episode, it takes a minimum of another hour to edit. So I end up doing an hour and a half plus upload time and a bunch of extra steps. And when I do the lives, it really only takes about 10 minutes of setup and then the amount of time on the show, which right now is already over an hour. Was not expected. But so we got a good solid live stream, and I expect we'll probably do, don't hold me to this, a live stream again tomorrow. And what I'm trying to do is have a topic for these ad hoc or unscheduled non-Thursday live streams, so that you're getting today, if you have to ask it's too early, is the topic. But on Thursdays, we do the open Q&A. Like, there is no topic, hop on, plan to spend the whole evening. But again, not this Thursday. It's my daughter's birthday and it's Thanksgiving. I am cooking. My youngest daughter and I are cooking Thanksgiving dinner together and then celebrating my eldest daughter's 17th birthday. And yes, for all the Sound of Music fans, my daughter, Liesel, is 16 going on 17. This is the year of her being the Liesel. So I'm going to answer these last few things and then we'll be wrapping up. Gia Vargas asks, how often are border runs required? Technically, every 180 days. You get 90 days as a tourist when you come into the country, and you are allowed 3 local extensions, meaning if you're living in Leon and you come here for 90 days and you hit the extension time on your 89th day, unless it's a Sunday, 88th day, run to Migracion here and apply for another 30 days. Generally, if you get there at a good time and are ready for the paperwork, it takes about 10 to 15 minutes. Very easy. It's cheap. It's less than the cost of doing a border run, and you're done. Most of us in the big cities, Managua, Leon, Chinandega, Matagalpa, Esteli, Jinotega, super. Oh, TJ, get that out. We did ours this morning. I'm not eating turkey, but we do have one for those now. It's a very small one, so we were able to take it out today. Should be fine. You do those extensions, and then you only need to do a border run every 180 days, and a border run just means running to Costa Rica and back. It is immediate, just out and back in as fast as Costa Rica can turn you around. So often we're in country for under 5 to 10 minutes. You can also do it on a bus. There's a bunch of things you can do. Some people choose to do the border runs every 90 days and skip the extensions. Mostly they're people who live right at the border, both because obviously the border runs are much easier for them. So doing it twice as often, like the people in San Juan del Sur especially, for them it's very close. But also, I've been told that the Rivas office discourages the 30-day extensions. Not heard that anywhere else. All the others encourage the 30-day extensions. They think it's silly to run to Costa Rica. But apparently Rivas is pushing people that way. I don't know if that's official or just someone's impression of it. Another live. How often are border runs? LA Noir. Is it because you love that video game? Is that what? You've already given some useful information. I haven't been here that long. Well, thanks for joining anyway. TJ says, remote guest host? Yes, I know. Alberta Boy, can you recommend any decent hotels to stay in? 1 month, time to find a decent rental. Getting a month rental is very hard, but if you're going to be here for a month in Leon or any one city, definitely consider an Airbnb and talk to them and be like, look, I'm going to be there for a month. Give me a big deal, right? And they probably will, as long as it's not a prime month. But hotels, doable. Los Balcones here in town, we like a lot for a lower cost hotel. If you're looking for something baller, right? La Perla and El Convento are your obvious choices. But there's a number of hotels here that are fine. But that's kind of if I'm looking for a hotel, not a hostel, and want something pretty decent, Los Balcones is my choice. And if someone wants to go fancy, Perla and Convento are the fancy ones. And Recoleta, Marriott just bought. Is that right? Yeah, La Recoleta. I don't know when it's going to open under the Marriott brand, but they did buy it, and it's nearly open, and that's really close to Convento. All those are pretty much downtown. There's also plenty of hostels if you're looking for something like cheap. But obviously, hostels, it's a little bit rougher living. Depends on what you're looking for. Oh, TJ says, I got my turkey yesterday. I was thinking you got it out to thaw. We got ours out to thaw this morning. Jan says, haha, you're still here, so you're leaving. Yes, I'm leaving. John says, I had a guy today who needed to inform me about crime in Ecuador, a subject you have covered before. Be an idiot and you can be a victim. Be smart and you're probably fine. That is true. I do have offices in the Ecuador area, and all my people that sometimes work there are like, be careful, like actually concerned for the region. And so my offices tend to work in Peru, Bolivia, Ecuador. We really don't do Colombia, Argentina. We zip around in that area quite a bit. And they've been warning for years about Ecuador. And I got a warning this week. So certainly you can be safe in Ecuador. Certainly be a lot more careful than most of the rest of South America at this time. Jan says, I'm not even doing anything for Thanksgiving. I'm not even doing anything for Thanksgiving. I haven't since the TEFL school closed. Oh, that's sad. I like Thanksgiving dinner. TJ says, I don't like extensions, especially in Managua. It is true. I would not want to go. I would probably do border runs over using Managua. Marco says, you're going live tomorrow. I think so. No predictable time. I don't know when I'll get to. It's a work day, so who knows when my work finishes, right? It's crazy. One of the other things I like about the live streams is because for the live streams, I use the studio lights. It's dark. Well, mostly dark anyway. So I can't go outside and record. But if I'm like later, this works. I don't know why it's taken me years to figure out that this is a process we can do. This is fantastic. Awesome. Thanks. Hotel Mazante in Managua rate was 800. Yes, I think, Luke, he's looking at Leon specifically, but maybe I got that wrong. Yes, Mazante is a pretty well-known good choice, low cost in Managua, and Paul and I, my business partner, and I stayed at Mazante as well as Luke did when we first moved here. Alberta Boy says, by the way, hotel 1 month, rental 1 year. Okay, yeah, a month in a hotel, you've probably got time to find a 1 year rental. You'll be busy, right, trying to find it, but can be done. So yeah, all right, we got to the end of the questions. We've been going an hour and 10 minutes, 70 minutes, which is, I was expecting 30 minutes tops, so awesome. We have a lot of people on. We did a full 50% more views than we did on yesterday's, so maybe I'll plan to try to leave a little bit more time. Both of my children have come in looking for me during this live stream, so I'm going to get over to them. But this is fantastic. Remember to give that thumbs up while you're on. Give a like. There's way more people on currently than there are likes being given, so I expect to see those likes jump up. And look for us tomorrow. Watch older episodes. Thanks to Radek for the question. I will do my best to post this link over to him so he sees it. And boy, I guess I will see everyone tomorrow. Oh, wait, before I actually cut off, just because, I don't know how to pronounce your name. I tried it so many times on the live stream the other day and just gave up. I'm from Managua and love it. What do you think? I do actually like Managua. The reason I don't live in Managua is, one, it doesn't have an ocean sitting at it. And two is it doesn't have the feeling of a big city. That doesn't make it bad. I like big cities or the country. So I live kind of in the country. I like small villages and big cities. Managua for me is a giant village. And a lot of people have the same kind of vibe with Managua. So if you like village life and you want a big fancy village with just endless stuff where it's like the next village runs into it, Managua is amazing. I love the food culture in Managua. I love going out in Managua. I like a lot about Managua. My kids love going there. We go there quite often. I mean, 3 times a week sometimes. But living there, we like our barrio. We like being close to the ocean. We like the lower cost out here. We don't like the food situation, but it does save us from going out to eat every day. If I was in Managua, I'd go out to eat every day. If I'm going to have a city house, it is unlikely that I would want it in Managua. I kind of want an apartment in Managua just because I'm there all the time. And at some point, it's like, okay, I could have a cheaper place if I didn't. I don't know why I just flickered. That was weird. Like my camera cycled. Nothing in the room. That was a camera thing. Normally it does it at 6 hours, but it did it at an hour, 72 minutes. It's not giving me any warnings. The battery's even full. I don't even know what's going on. How's the battery full on the camera? Love that camera. I would like an apartment. We do stay in Managua so often that at some point it's like, it would be no more expensive to have our own apartment there, which is probably true. Obviously, that doesn't take a whole lot, but then you're not going and staying in nice hotels. Part of the thing that my kids like doing is they like staying in either fancy places like the DoubleTree, they like the service, the restaurant in that place, the pool. They don't really like the pool that much, but they just like doing hotels, and they like the cookies at the DoubleTree. And they enjoy trying new places, so going to a new hotel that they haven't been before. These are all things that they enjoy. If we own a place, then they don't get to do those things. But you get to go to a place that's yours and have your own space, and so there's advantages that way. It could go either way. Because of the show, I think doing hotels is a little bit better. But we'll see. At some point, maybe I'll have an apartment in Managua. I'm not opposed to it. But I love Managua. I really do. And I push it a lot that I think it gets a bad rap. We're trying to wrap up, and we've got more people on than we did at any time during the live stream. Welcome, everybody. Sorry, we're just wrapping up. We've been going for almost an hour and a half, and I didn't realize how popular Sunday was going to be. This is just meant to be the daily show. We were just doing it live, so I'm really thankful for everyone who's here, but we're going to be wrapping up in a minute. But Managua really is a nice city. It is very livable once you understand it. The hardest thing with Managua for foreigners is understanding it. It's not like other cities. You can't move from Tegucigalpa and be like, it's Nicaragua's Tegucigalpa. It's not. You can't move from San Salvador and be like, I got this. It's just like, no. It's nothing like Chepe Town, right? It is. I don't know any city in the world that I would compare to Managua, which is super cool that we have this incredibly unique city. But what we don't have is a Tegucigalpa or a San Salvador. We don't have what we would be a more typical giant city. And so that's something that I miss. But just as a place, I think Managua is really nice and gets a really bad rap. Mario, I don't know what time tomorrow. It's going to be up in the air. These are kind of ad hoc live streams, so I kind of have to do it when the opportunity arises. Thursdays, I set aside the time and still struggle to get started, but these shorter ones, we just have to kind of hope for the best, I think. Might be in the middle of the day. I might just be like having lunch and be like, hey, I got time to do it. I don't know. John says, cool, enjoyed the lives, thanks, thank you. Janet says, I did my giving a like right at the beginning, so that's good. It's good policy, always hit the like right when you first get here. Free Coach Ron Williams says, thanks, Scott. Hey, Ron, good to see you here. Bye, Janet. Would you recommend doing extensions? Where would you recommend extensions be processed if Managua is not the best option? So you don't really get choices. You can always do Managua. Anyone can do Managua. But otherwise, you have to do it in your locality. It has to be a place that you are staying. So if you're like backpacking in a different town every day, you can't do extensions, unfortunately. You have to do the extra border run. While theoretically possible, I've never met someone that actually impacted, because normally once you're here for at least 3 months, you have settled in somewhere. You may move around, but that's okay. So for us, we have to do Leon or Managua. For Luke, he has to do Matagalpa or Managua, and so forth. Anyone is always allowed to do Managua. So if you are that backpacker and you're moving around all the time, you can always go to Managua. Not a problem. But they process everybody. If you can show that you are a resident of one of the outer towns, like Leon, I was able to show because I owned a place, because I had a rental agreement, because I'd been in the place for so long, whatever. It was very easy to go and say, look, this is my address. I'm staying in Leon another 3 months. Please extend me. No problem. So it's once in a while you have to do Managua. But for almost everyone else, we have our locals to go to. So I'd say probably 8 out of 10 expats have a non-Managua option. All right, guys, thank you so much. I'm actually going to hit the stop streaming button now. We are at 77 minutes. Still quite respectable. I really appreciate everyone hopping on and joining us for the live streams, and I will see all of you